With the whole Windows 10, Windows 11 situation, some of you might be looking at jumping ship and moving to the Apple side of the fence. As a mostly Linux user, I feel that's trading one big corporation for another, but strangely, I feel less icky about Apple. For the Apple MacBook Air in particular, there have been some decent prices lately on new laptops and especially on used, refurbished or open box offerings. Now, the TLDR for this video is as follows. If you're looking at an Apple laptop as an alternative to Windows, may I suggest you look at a used or refurbished M2 or M3 MacBook Air. New is better, of course, if your budget allows. And if things are especially tight, an M1 MacBook Air will work fine for everyday computing tasks, even with the base 8GB of RAM. So, if you're still interested, give me a few more minutes to explain where I come up with these pearls of wisdom. Okay, big picture stuff for those unfamiliar with Apple's products. If you are familiar with macOS and the different MacBook models, you can skip ahead to this timestamp. So, the MacBook Air is the base model of Apple's laptop lineup, and they come in 13-inch and 15-inch versions. They're very thin and have really nice screens, but no touch screens, and surprisingly good sound for a small laptop. The base configuration of these is 8 or 16 GB of RAM and a 256 GB SSD drive. More on the RAM later. 256 gigs is not a lot of storage. Most Windows laptops will come with at least twice that. But Apple's base config for the MacBook Air is still 256 gigs in 2025. It's not cripplingly small for everyday computer use, but it's something to be aware of. You should stick to the so-called M-series models. Those have the newer Apple-designed chipset that offers very good performance and battery life. The M1 was introduced in 2020, and there have been M2, M3, and M4 MacBook Air models since then. The current M5 MacBook is a MacBook Pro, which is a different model. The M5 MacBook Air will likely show up in spring 2026. Apple laptops are not cheap, but I would say a Windows laptop of comparable quality and performance probably costs around the same or maybe a little more. Early M-series laptops came with 8 gigs of RAM or unified memory to be more precise. Apple stubbornly held on to this configuration until the M4 model, where 16 GB became the standard. However, be aware that you can get the older models with 16 gigs also. 8 GB is adequate for everyday computing, but if you care about using Apple Intelligence features, that requires 16 gigs. 16 gigs would also be beneficial if you want to work on things like video editing too. It's also very important to note that the RAM and storage on M-series MacBook laptops are not upgradable after the fact. So what you get is what you got. Apple's support model includes macOS updates for both new features and security patches, like Microsoft for supported Windows versions. Historically, Apple offers 7 to 8 years total, with 5 to 7 years of major updates plus 2 years of security only for specific computer or laptop models. For example, M1 models from 2020 are still fully supported in 2025 but may see reduced updates by 2027 to 2028. Personally, I had a 16 GB M1 MacBook Air which I purchased used from eBay. It was a great little laptop and did everything I required of it, including editing 1080p videos for my YouTube channel. My daily driver is an AMD-powered Lenovo IdeaPad running Linux, which I like a lot, but I would say the MacBook Air is better hardware in almost every way. The Lenovo was an open box purchase, just so you know. More recently, I got a really good deal on a refurbished M3 MacBook Air, also with 16 gigs of RAM, and I sold the M1. While the M3 is noticeably faster, the M1 was already pretty fast, so it's not a huge leap. The M3 does have a better webcam and a few other hardware improvements, but the MacBook Air line has remained physically similar since 2020. Now, if you are moving from Windows to a Mac computer, note that Mac OS is different enough from Windows that it will probably take a few days for you to settle in to the new way of doing things. There are plenty of YouTube videos on the transition, and it shouldn't be a major problem for most people. As far as buying new, you can still find some new older M-series MacBook Air laptops, such as the M3, if you look around, and the current M4 base models are regularly available for $799 in the US through major outlets like Best Buy, Walmart, Micro Center, etc. And remember, Black Friday is coming up here in the US, so keep your eyes peeled. Open box refers to an item that has been returned and that can't be legally sold as new. It may be effectively new, but the packaging has been opened and the item may have been used briefly, but then returned. This typically results in some kind of discounted price, maybe $50 off, something like that, and the normal warranty probably still applies. Refurbished items are pre-owned products that have undergone a restoration process by either Apple or a third-party provider. This process includes testing, repair or replacement of defective parts, software updates, and cosmetic cleaning to restore the device to often like-new condition. Refurbished products are typically certified, come with a warranty ranging from 30 days to a year, and can be more reliable than other used options. Used means just that. Somebody purchased the device, used it for some period of time, and then offered it for sale. Sites like eBay and Swappa offer used items, usually with some kind of limited warranty from the company. I personally would avoid buying from the local classifieds or Facebook Marketplace, etc., where you really have no recourse at all after a purchase. Also, please be aware that a locked Apple device, a phone, laptop, iPad, etc., cannot be set up by a new owner. By locked, I mean that the device still has a previous Apple account associated with it. Apple cannot or will not help you here. The item being offered should clearly state that the device is unlocked and ready to be activated by somebody else. If not, stay away. I have purchased several used, open box, and refurbished Apple and non-Apple devices over the past few years, and I have been admittedly very lucky, and everything has worked as described, and I have saved quite a bit of money in doing so. Just read the descriptions carefully, check the ratings of the seller, etc. You may not be that kind of person, though, and I completely understand that. Risk tolerance is a very personal thing. Essentially, then, if you have the money, try and get a good deal on a new M4 MacBook Air. The hardware is very good, and the performance and screen, etc. will not disappoint. Otherwise, a new M3 model would be a bit cheaper, or a refurbished M2 or M3 would also be a great choice. Only go for the M1 if you have to, bearing in mind the 7 or 8 year support cycle that Apple provides. I hope that helps somebody. Take care. So that's another video in the can. If you found this informative or interesting, please consider liking and subscribing down below. And remember, be excellent to each other.